Welcome back. How do you build an industry-leading technology strategy for a global FM business? Our next speaker is doing just that. Former CIO for global businesses like Deutsche Bank and Daimler, now Chief Information Technology and Digitalisation Officer for ISS. Please welcome Markus Sontheimer.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody. Some survived. I think it was a tough day sitting in the seat. So let me quickly talk about a different perspective. You know, I think a lot of you and maybe everybody knows ISS. We are one of the big facility management companies. We have 360,000 people across the world. And the story I'm going to tell you is about how you drive technology becoming a leading attribute of your offering. So when I started in June 2021, the job was given that ISS decided that apart from focusing on global key accounts as a key target, as well still being the biggest cleaning company in the world, we want to become a technology leader in the industry. And now that always sounds good on PowerPoints, and it started with recruiting a senior CIO. That's why I joined, and that's the ambition, nothing less than that. So in 2021, we worked on setting the strategic direction for the tech function. So what does that mean? And I go in more detail about that. So it was the first time that the shareholders implemented a CIO on group board level. So you are amongst peers, you're not reporting into a CFO, so you are amongst the table and can discuss with your partners around technology. And now, after we approved the strategy, we really started to build some key applications, which I show you some of them as well. So we are building up the team because it all starts, you need to have the right strategy, then you need to bring in the right people, and then you need a lot of energy to pull such a big company in the new direction. So 2021, 2022, we started building new hubs for tech people. So one is in Warsaw. We built another one in Porto, and we have started to recruit in 2022 150 additional technologists. And there's another 150 technologists joining us this year, so we will be end of the year around 1,000 tech people in ISS. And now looking forward this year and the years to come, it's all about generating the value out of the assets we are building, and I go in more detail why we believe these assets are making a difference on the customer side and from all the issues and the challenges we heard around this morning around the workplace and for real estate management. Now a tech strategy always sounds easy, but it's not. And the first question you have to ask yourself is not the what you developed. The question for us as a company is how we develop and how we run an IT shop globally. So we built this, we call it the wheel, that's our strategy, and the strategy explains in all dimensions how we do that. If you talk about in the middle, we talk about infrastructure and cybersecurity. So we really lifted our security level to a standard like a bank. So that's because that's our customers, our banks, government functions, hospitals. So if you are a facility manager with our brand, 120 years old, you need to be reliable, secure, and stable. The same is around infrastructure, so we decided to move to the cloud. So cloud first. We moved already in 2022, 5 countries to the cloud. There's another 5 following. So we're moving infrastructure-wise the company to the cloud. And then it's about right sourcing. How much do you do in-house versus how much do you buy? So buy and build, it's a key question how to do that. How does your landscape look like, your global application landscape? What do you deploy for which segment? So we are focusing on 3 big segments. One is healthcare, another one is all office-based, that's banks, that's kind of consultancy companies, tech companies, and the third one is all about industry. So we do for sure industry cleaning as well, and not only office-based. The key point on the strategy here is about building the right digital application. That the right digital applications here means the application which makes a difference for our customers and for our own placemakers. And you need to build a scalable platform, because size only helps if it scales. And we are not in the plain vanilla B2C business. We are dealing with big B2B customers. We are dealing with the big banks of the world, and that means they are all a little bit different. Every customer tells you, I'm different. And as a big supplier like we, you really need to do that. And then we are stretched and changed the way we organize tech the whole world. So all tech people are reporting solid line into myself. We have a global guideline of IT management. Shadow IT is not allowed. So we start concentrating the tech muscle across the globe. The important thing from my perspective for the facility management industry and talking about technology is that you're not going to solve the problem with a single app. And we heard a lot about this morning about different topics. We heard about, the IoT system with sensors. We heard about the app who makes the difference. We talked about CO2 footprint of a building. The only answer going forward is to embark with a partnership where somebody can provide you and integrate you the technology ecosystem. What we build and what you see here is the ecosystem, very high level, and you see it starts with the left top corner, so it's our facility management system in the end, which is nothing else than the asset holding platform. And it doesn't matter what brand you use, but in the end you need one single source of truth for all your assets in the building. You need to start doing the life cycle management of your asset. You need to be aware of the energy consumption of your asset. You need to come to the conclusion, when is the right point of replacement? What is the predicted default of an asset of a building so that the maintenance and the work is effective, efficient, and CO2 optimized. So the facility management system in its core has its biggest focus on the assets and managing the assets in a building, which you can imagine for a global bank is massive. Massive, and having the standard data quality in place is key. We talked a lot about refurbishing buildings, and that's where we need and have processes to capture assets, to adapt assets, to keep the data up to date, which we all know is one of the biggest problems, to really have your data ready, even if your buildings are from different kind of times when they have been built. Now, in the backbone of your whole ecosystem, you need a platform for reporting. We talked a lot about data. We had some people presenting this morning, and they said, don't talk to your IT department, give it to me, I do it for you, all the reporting. Now, as a CIO, I'm a little bit concerned. Yeah, so in the end, what you need, for sure, you need a single point of truth where you start to collect the data. And that's different data. That can be data about waste management, because that plays a role in your CO2 stack as well. It can be data about occupancy of the space. It can be data about energy consumption. It can be data about happiness of the employee in the building. Now, if you're clear that you need somehow somebody who serves you with that backbone, then the question is, how do you get the primary data out of the different domains we're talking about? At ISS, we build apps. We have food apps. We have an in-house food stack, so we do 1 million meals a day worldwide. So the question about food, how I order food, do I take away food, how I pay in the canteen, down to the question how much food waste I do in the kitchen, how much food waste do I do when people don't eat the full plate and give it back. So this kind of food waste information is important, but you need primary applications to collect the data. We have an application which is called My ISS, which we're rolling out to all our frontliners, and I will talk about that in the next slide. Then you need all the assets all the apps which are accessing your assets. You see that the technical services assets, the people who go out there, repair something. Does the mechanic have the right certification to repair this climber? Does he have the right spare parts in the right moments? And does he have the right routing that he has an optimized way to support the customer? Or the other app which we build is, we call it an outdoor app. It's an app just to document that it snowed, that's before, I cleaned the snow, and that's the picture after, and you store it back for invoicing and for proving your work of delivery, which I think is very important ultimately, that the customer is fine to understand that you did it and that you can raise an invoice for it. Waste management, as I talked about that, I show you our app we built for waste management. We find nothing in the market we can use, that's why we built our own app. We talked about workplace apps. We have for sure a workplace app live. 60,000 users are live worldwide. We want to go to 100,000 this year. So the key message of this slide is about you're not going to solve the problem with a single app. So you need to think about the ecosystem of your environment as real estate managers. And that's a lot. It's not a plain vanilla activity, real estate management. Now let me start with some of the apps which we are having live. You know, we can show them to you. It's the first one is Workplace. We talked, I think the last presentation was about the Workplace app. We have one for sure. As I said, 60,000 users are on the platform. We have another target for this year to go to 100,000 users. Our focus in the future on the Workplace app is going to be a massive integration with the Microsoft stack. As you know, Microsoft will come up with a software called Places. It's not complete, it has some features, but the strategy here again is about being able to integrate with some of the market leaders, because our users and your employees are not going to understand why they type it in that app and they don't find it in their Microsoft stack, which is their core workplace, wherever they are, at home or in the office. We have an app called My ISS. That's the first time that we are digitizing all our 360,000 people. Just bear in mind, it's easily said, but we talk about low-wage frontline workers, which we have not been able to digitally talk to. Just bear in mind how your whole system and your data changes if you can directly talk to your cleaners in the building, if you can talk to all the plumbers in London at the moment, if you get to the point where are they in an anonymous way, and you can optimize with algorithmic where they move next to optimize the customer service. So it's quite an important app. It scales. We will have 100,000 users live this year. Target is that every employee of ISS has the My ISS app on his phone. And the last one on this page is about takeaway. Takeaway of food. What we found out is exactly when you talk about why do people come to the office, having a good food is something. And it's different if you're in London or if you're in Copenhagen. Depends on the location, it depends on the restaurants downstairs, it depends what you do. But enabling the customer or the employee to have food takeaway and come home in the evening, say, hey, and by the way, I brought 3 portions of nasi goreng for the family, and you're the king and you're cool, and just 2 clicks, it's cheaper than takeaway. And by the way, if you go out, you get the message, don't forget your food, and the chef has it in the fridge and you know the quality. So for us, we kind of doubled the top line on food for this takeaway app, so it's more an app for increasing your top line and for happiness of the employees. Why do I come to the office? One element of that which was important to us. On that side, we built as well an in-house IoT platform, which is based on Amazon Cloud. It's live in Germany now for all the sensors. That's about the central component of an ecosystem when it comes to data. It's as well, you know, the IoT platform uses as well to get the data from apps. It gets it from sensors, and we heard about sensors a lot today, so I don't want to dive in more detail. But the IoT and digital twin, and I think there are limits where I believe what will in reality happen and what we want to happen. I've seen that in so many industries that the brain is so much faster than the reality, so you need to really look what's going to happen. But an IoT platform which is able to capture synchron and asynchron events in a proper time is a must-have in an ecosystem for the facility management industry. There is no choice. You have to have that in place. You need it to manage all your assets, which you're responsible for, the assets of your customers. And you need to do that in a very secure way, because the owner of the data is always the customer and not you as a supplier. So that needs to be 100% guaranteed, and you can do that if you control the code yourself. We talked about the outdoor app, a very simple way of making it easier for our frontliners. You can make pictures what you do, it's geotagging, it's time stamping, and you have the proof of delivery. And in our size, you can imagine what kind of productivity advantages we get if we just equip our frontliners with much better technology. Now, the last one is about, let me talk about, you see that, it's not running here, it's the waste manager application. It's now live in Denmark. And the key point is here is exactly how to manage your waste in a building, how to get somebody picking up containers, getting new containers, keeping the transparency, the invoicing from the waste management company. So it's a platform, even if ISS doesn't do the waste management for you, you can have a platform to get this transparency, which I said is a key enabler. Now what we did in our first year as well is if you want to be the technology leader, you always have to look with one eye what's going on in the startup scenery in your industry. So what we did is in the end we had around 500 technology startups which we are scanning, which we are looking, which we are cooperating. Some of the names there you saw are some of the apps which we are scaling now massively. That's why we are attractive for startup, because what a startup wants is somebody who scales and who has a strong brand, and that's us. Now how we cluster that is we look in different directions. So firstly, we look about predictive intelligence, and I personally believe after all my years as a CIO, about mathematics will do a lot for this industry and has to do a lot. If you can predict properly the occupation of the office in 2 weeks from now, you can do much more about how you save energy, how you structure. And prediction is not difficult if you collect your own data step by step. It's very easy, and we did it at Schenker. We got 98% accuracy 4 weeks in advance of the number of shipments in a branch. So it's all about having the big data, having the right data, and training your algorithmics. And prediction is absolutely key. If you can predict how much steaks you need in the canteen, in 3 days from now, the number of food waste you produce will be much less, and that's good for the planet. So prediction is, there is no excuse to not use prediction in our business here. It all starts with the question of making things visible. You can't optimize what you can't see, and that's why visibility is a key point. Green, there is a lot of investments in startups around green, CO2. You see some of the examples on the slide which are working. We are using, as an example, Double to optimize. We heard about that. Double is an engine on top of the building management system. It saves between 10-15% of energy just with optimizing the algorithmics and flattening the curve of the climate versus the heating devices in your building. So quite a quick win, which is out there. It's still, in a company of our size, it's about automation. If you're in a low margin business like weed cleaning, then automation is a must-have, and whatever you can automate, you have to automate. That means robotics on software is a key. We have a global robotics center who optimizes how we do things, and you see there's a lot of startups in the space about lean automation as well in the facility management areas. We heard this morning about drones and how you can do, and even they got the award for the innovation. We use drones as well to maintain the towers of a German mobile phone company. I think that's one example. There are very specific use cases, and that's where startups are perfect. They look for a very clear use case to ultimately show their capabilities, and that is easy then to adapt and scale in a company of our size. And then it's about operations performance, because in a low margin business, it's all about effectiveness and efficiency, otherwise you don't earn money. There's a lot of stuff which is really optimizing the way you do your day all about. There's small kind of IoT systems around managing your tangible assets around, optimizing the maintenance of your vacuum cleaners, of the big, we have a lot of machinery for sure. And then it's about people solutions, because we are a people company. If you have 360,000 people, we are a very purpose-driven, people-first company, and my mission is about making life for our placemakers easier and more effective. So when it comes to sustainability, there is a big demand. We heard about that in one of the interview stages here, about you need to track carbon emission. I think there is a lot of naivety still in the market that people think they're going to get net zero. It's happening tomorrow. It's not. It's a huge work to start collecting the data and get into science-based target, and not only buy yourself out of that problem, you will need to be able to collect your CO2 footprint as a company. There is no chance and everybody signed up to it. So track carbon emission is key. You have to drive, look for the drivers to optimize that. There are ideal points of replacing pumps in a building because you get more efficiency, and if you look with a CO2 lens on the pumps, that's a different lens than the pure economic lens you can take. And having the choice and simulating different use cases helps you to get the decisions in your companies you need. So there is a lot to do around green, and we believe it's, again, a whole ecosystem which ultimately needs to be feed data into your backbone. And with that, I would have the last slide about this more techie-driven presentation. So in the end, what you need to do is the focus of every company, especially on our sides, it's about stable, agile, and cyber-secure operations. So the system have to be up and running, they have to be stable. We invest a lot, more than 15 million euro a year on cyber. We have 70 people dedicated on cyber because we think that's absolutely important for our brand. You have to set a clear direction where you go. In our case, it's building own assets, growing another 100 developers this year in Portugal to really become an own tech. Because if you want to become a tech leader, you're rather able to code software. Otherwise, it's hard to say dispatching software as a dispatcher is not a tech leader in the industry. Then you need to start to build the apps from the user perspective. You need to move into agile, integrated team. You need to take your placemakers and design the apps with the ultimate user that they love the app. Otherwise, it's an ivory tower and it doesn't work. And you need to think around that whole setup for yourself as a fully integrated ecosystem. It's not a single app game. So you will have a lot of people want to sell you one app, but it's not going to solve your problem in the midterm. So you need to think very systematically about how you manage the information you need to get, you need to manage, you need to report on, even in the sense of by auditors, you're going to be checked when it comes to CO2. And in the end, you need to get to a 360-degree view on the building. We call that building on a page, because that gives you, as a real estate management, the transparency you need to do your job. Thank you very much.
I was asked a question in the break, and this seems an opportune moment. Where's Joanna Lloyd-Davis?
Hello, it is Joanna here. I've listened to everybody very carefully today. One of the things I haven't heard, and maybe I've missed something, and I hope not, nobody has mentioned the legal ramifications of either data collection or data use, maybe manipulation. The reason this has come to the forefront in my sphere is that I'm a voluntary member of the International Special Interest Group, and one of our focuses for the last 3 years has been the data conundrum. And in recent months, we've been working with Mishcon Derea, debating the aspects of data collection, use, etc. Nobody's mentioned it today, and it's so important. It's not just the use of the data in the corporate field, but it's human rights. Actually, who has the intellectual property rights? Is it the commissioners of the buildings, the actual owners, the occupiers, whoever? But we've got to actually make sure that we don't forget the legal ramifications. And as I say, nobody seems to have mentioned it today so far.
Yeah, but I think as a CIO, that's kind of what you live and breathe since 30 years, especially when you're in the banking industry, or you live in Germany, you have all the trade unions, you have the Workers' Council, so data protection is for me a non-discussionable point, so very clear. In Denmark, there is even a data ethics a guideline from the government, which clearly decides, and you have to sign up, and ISS signed up to that, because now it becomes even more difficult if you start to use more and more machine learning and you start to generate biased data. And there's very clear what is allowed and what isn't. So I can only confirm what you're saying. In our area, it's a second pair of eyes. There is a data protection officer, which doesn't report to me for sure, because he needs to control what we're doing in tech as well. I think we never use data to control single people. If you are clear and you explain in Germany to the Workers' Council why you do it, and you write that down and you sign it, so you're liable if you break the rules, then you build trust. And if then to the point, if the employees, then there was this question about how do you make employees to use the apps. If the apps provide an advantage for the person, you have 3 kids, right? They use apps, they don't care. As long as they give fun to them, they give the data away, which is naive. And I'm trying to educate them. But we have very educated employees, so that means you need to explain why. You need to make sure that the framework is in line with law and in line with values, which values need to be higher than the law, what you do and what you don't do, and that needs to be outspoken and written, and it needs to be checked, to be very clear. So we have auditors which we send out to check the countries if they are adhering to that. But I can only support what you're saying. I think it's so key that we keep the machines away. I still get nervous when people have face recognition entry systems. So I was too many times in China, and I'm still, as a German, struggling with this kind of visibility. But we build solutions for people, and we need to make the people part of the development process. That's my message. And I think then you really get to solutions which are firstly accepted, secondly in line what your values are providing, and then they will work and people will use them.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Markus Sontheimer.